basically you can say that your main microservice is the brain of your whole architecture.
So can you tell me what is Spring Cloud? So can you
Okay.
give me brief steps like how do you implement e-commerce application? So can you explain what is the fault tolerance in Spring Cloud? So can you tell me how two different microservices communicate with each other? Is there any way?
Hello, coders, welcome to DevByte School. I hope all of you are doing great. So, multiple students request me to provide a Spring Cloud interview questions, and one student tell me that I answer all Spring Cloud related questions, but still interviewer not select me. Okay, so I communicate with that particular student to observe that he not able to give a answer with real time example. So the reason behind that for the negative reply is this. Okay, so for all these queries, okay, we record one mock interview. In that mock interview, we try to add important top 20 interview questions that asking frequently in Spring Cloud or Java backend interview process. Okay, so I suggest you to watch this video till end and don't skip anything. And one more thing, without any distraction, you're able to complete mastering Spring Boot and mastering Angular course. We move the whole playlist of YouTube to our official website, so you can check our official website devbyteschool.com. So in that we move our playlist. So in this playlist no ads is coming. Okay, so our main motto is like you complete the whole playlist, okay, for a Spring Boot if you are focusing on backend development, and if you focusing on full stack development you can check our Angular playlist also. Okay, Angular playlist is in progress right now. Okay, and if you not yet joined our DevByte School Telegram channel, I suggest you to join that. QR code come over here and link in description, scan that and join over there, where we sharing important interview tips and tricks, important interview resource, and our video updates. Okay, so without wasting any time, let's get started.
Hi Rahul, how are you?
I'm great. What about you?
Yeah, I'm good. Shall we start?
Yes, yes, yes.
Can you tell me the difference between what is the monolithic architecture and what is microservices?
Okay, first of all, thanks Vikram to giving me opportunity to express myself. Okay, so the difference between monolithic and microservice architecture is like mono means single. Okay, means your whole feature, okay, implement in a single project. Okay, so it is tightly coupled. Okay, for example, if you're building an e-commerce application, so whatever feature in that just building in a one single application. Okay, microservice
Okay.
means what? You divide your multiple features like product listing service over there, payment get over there, then notification service over there. Okay, then add to cart service over there. You just divide your whole features in a small projects. Okay, divide a
Okay.
small project and they are loosely coupled. Okay, so that call a microservice architecture.
Okay. So can you tell me what is the best from both of them?
Okay, so uh, it is not about like which one is best and which one is like not good. Okay, for example, if you have budget is less, okay, and your
Okay.
project have small features, okay, for that you go for a monolithic architecture. Okay, but
Okay.
if your project is very vast like e-commerce application or banking application, request per second count is very huge. Okay, so that time you need a horizontal scaling, then load balancing, all those stuffs. Okay, for that you
Okay.
go for microservice. Okay, because when
Okay.
you go for a microservice architecture, the cost is increases. Okay, with that complexity of a system also increase, so it increase maintenance cost. Okay, so it's depend on your business requirement which you need to select.
Okay. Okay. Good. So can you tell me what is Spring Cloud?
Okay, so a Spring Cloud is basically a open source a framework like a Spring Boot. Okay, so
Okay.
whatever feature required to build a microservice architecture, okay, Spring Cloud fulfill that. For example, we need a load balancer. Okay, then we need a API gateway. Okay, then we need a service registry and discovery. Okay, we need a cloud configuration. Okay, then we need asynchronous communication between multiple microservices. Okay, so whatever features required to build a microservice level architecture, Spring Cloud provide that. Okay.
Okay. Great. So can you tell me what are different design patterns in microservices?
Okay, so as I use for first is asynchronous communication over there, pub sub. Okay, in that use RabbitMQ or Kafka to commit multiple microservice. Then Saga over there. Okay, Saga is one of the good design pattern. Multiple way you can implement orchestrator over there in Saga. Okay, and choreography over there. Okay, after that
Okay.
API gateway over there, circuit breaker design pattern over there. Okay, so as per your need you can implement that.
Okay, great. So what is service discovery in microservices architecture?
Okay.
Can you explain?
Okay, so basically, like you have, for example, when you develop a microservice architecture, okay, you have like 10 to 12 microservices, okay, or sometimes
Okay.
it's like 100 to 200 count over there, okay. So how you maintain
Hmm.
that? Okay, so service registry and discovery is one of the concept, okay. What we are doing over there, for each microservice we are giving some unique name. For example, if you're building an e-commerce application, so for payment microservice you give unique name, give id as a payment service, okay. For a
Okay.
notification service you gain name as a notification service, okay. So we give a unique name to each microservices and we register them in a service registry and discover them. So why we need to discover them? For example, if you want to communicate between multiple microservices, how you communicate that? Okay, one of the simple way is using REST template, but it not make sense. Okay, so you can use a Feign client with that, but before using a Feign client, we need to give a unique name with respect to that. Okay, if you want to implement load balancing, okay, you need to implement API gateway, then you need to implement a security. For all this reason, you need to register all microservice in a one specific microservice. It's called a service registry and discovery.
Okay, okay, great. So can you tell me how two different microservices communicate with each other? Is there any way you have implemented that?
Yes, yes. So basically, there are three way to communicate between two microservice. One is using REST template. I just explained that. Okay. Second one is using asynchronous communication, uh, and third way using a Feign client. Okay. So a REST
Oh,
template, you directly implement REST template and call your API URL and call the other microservice. Asynchronous
oh,
communication, for example, you have one microservice. Okay, for example, payment microservice, and another microservice is like a notification microservice. So you implement one messaging service, for example, RabbitMQ or Kafka, and you send one message to a particular queue, and that's a notification service receive that and send a notification. Okay, and the last way is using Feign client. Okay, in a Feign client, for example, you annotate your in a your main application, Spring Boot Shutter main application, you annotate with enable Feign client. Okay, and for example
oh,
you have employee organization microservice and one employer microservice. Okay, and from
okay,
organization microservice you need to call a employee data. So you define one interface, and in that interface you annotate with a Feign client, and in the interface you define your like get employee data method, whatever HTTP method, but particular that API use, like get, post, and put, you define that, and you can directly call that.
okay, okay, great, great. Okay, Rahul. Now explain me what is distributed configuration management in Spring Cloud?
Okay. So basically, like we have multiple microservice. Okay, like example of we have 50 microservice, and each and every microservice have their own environments like dev, UAT, and prod. Okay, it's very haptic to manage all those configuration files. Like we have each Spring Boot project have their own properties file, so it's very haptic to manage 150 to 200 files. Okay, so in distributed configuration management, Spring Cloud provide one feature which is Spring Cloud config. Okay, so what it says that, like, put your all properties file in one single repository, your GitHub repository. Okay, and you can enable that with your Spring Cloud bus. Okay, and you uh, implement any messaging service like RabbitMQ or Kafka. So whenever you change anything, if you want to change any properties files, okay, you don't need to go to that specific microservice and restart that. Okay, you just go to your centralized configuration repository, go to that particular properties file and change that. Okay, automatically Spring Cloud bus send the message to your microservice to restart. Okay, so for that purpose, to handling all your microservice configuration files, we are using this Spring Cloud config.
Okay, okay, good. Can you tell me what is circuit breaker and how does Spring Cloud implements it?
Okay. So circuit breaker basically like in a microservice architecture, like multiple microservice communicate with each other, like service one communicate with service two, then service two communicate with service three, and service three communicate with service four. Okay. For example,
Okay,
for a some reason your service three is not responding and it's give a 500 status code continuously. Okay. So your first service call, second service, and second service, third service, then a retry is going on. It's not make sense to call again and again that microservice. Okay. So for that, circuit breaker play very important role. So what circuit breaker says that you define any mechanism, right? Retry mechanism, all those mechanisms, and you provide a fallback method. Okay. So whenever any issue happen to that particular microservice, so we provide a fallback method, so we can implement in that way.
okay. Can you explain how do you write that into your code?
Okay. So first, you have a Spring Boot application class. Okay. So in the Spring Boot application class, okay, you need to use one annotation which is enable circuit breaker. Okay. After that, you have a controller class. For example, employee controller, REST controller class. In that REST controller class, if you have get employee details method over there, like get method. Okay. In that, you need to use histories command annotation. Okay. In that history command annotation, you need to provide a fallback method. Okay. And that fallback method, whatever mechanism, for example, that particular microservice give inter server error 3 times. So on the fourth time, circuit will be break, and at that time fallback a method will be provided. Okay. In that way you can implement in your Spring Cloud project.
Okay, okay, good, good. So can you explain what is API gateway in microservice architecture and how does Spring Cloud support it?
Okay. So Spring Cloud provide you one dependency, which is a Spring Cloud Starter gateway. Okay. So by using this, you can implement API gateway. So API gateway is nothing but single point of contact. Okay. For your all
Oh,
microservices. So in that you can implement various things, like you can implement rate limiter. You can implement authentication authorization. So if you want to implement security, okay, you can implement in that also. Then you need to implement a load balancer. Okay. Just define I need to use a round robin, whatever load balancer you have, you can implement in that API gateway. So there is various purpose you can achieve that using API gateway of a Spring Cloud.
okay, okay. So can you explain what is the fault tolerance in Spring Cloud?
Okay. Like previously we discussed one example of fault tolerance, which is a circuit breaker. Okay. Another example is a fallback method. We provide one fallback method. After that, we can implement retry mechanism also. So for example, particular microservice not responding after 3 hits, or the fourth count, you can give a fallback method. One of the way is like you can implement timeout also. Okay. So for example, we define a timeout. So if your API is not responding that particular time period, you provide a fallback method. So that by using all those features, you can implement that fault tolerance, and you give certain time to that specific microservice to recover.
Okay, good explanation. So what is difference between Spring Cloud config and Spring Data Flow? Can
Okay.
you explain?
I already explained you Spring Cloud config in like previous questions. Okay. Spring Cloud data flow is used for a building a data pipeline in a microservice level. Okay. So you need to process a data. Okay. After processing data, you need to do some cleanup activity. After doing cleanup activity, you need to send a notification to a particular client. Okay. So you need to build a data pipeline. Okay, with different requirements in a microservice level. Okay. So for that, you can achieve by using Spring Cloud data flow.
Okay, okay, good. Okay, Rahul, what is Spring Cloud Sleuth? Can you explain me?
Okay. So for example, any issue occur in a Spring Cloud, Spring Boot project, for example. So how you find out that? By checking logs. Okay. But in a microservice level architecture, multiple microservice over there and they are communicating with each other. Okay. So if
Okay.
a one request go to a 10 microservice, so if you checking log of each and every microservice, it take huge time. Okay. So by using Spring Cloud Sleuth, okay, we implement tracing over there, logging and tracing. Okay. So we create one a trace ID, okay, unique ID and a span ID. Okay. So this trace ID, when any API hit, okay, we send one trace ID over there. So it trace ID goes to all your microservices. Okay. So for example, you have four microservice and your third microservice failed with inter-server error. Okay. You can check directly in that particular trace, log trace, okay, which particular microservice is failed, okay, and for which reason. Okay. So you identified the issue as quickly as possible. Okay. For that reason, Spring Sleuth is important.
Good. So what is role of Spring Cloud Bus? Can you explain?
Okay, so Spring Cloud, as I previously mentioned, in a Spring Cloud config process, okay, we implement a Spring Cloud bus. It is a lightweight messaging framework. Okay, if any changes happen in your configuration file, because we maintain that in a separate repository. So if any changes happen in your configuration file, we send a message to a RabbitMQ by using Spring Cloud bus, and your particular microservice is restarted. Okay, or you need to implement any event-driven command for all your microservices, you can use that. So for that purpose, we use.
Okay, okay, great. Then what is use of Spring Cloud Stream?
Okay, so a Spring Cloud Stream is used for a different purpose. Okay, it is used for a play with streams of data. Okay, for example, if you want to implement a notification service, okay, so for that we need to send a message to particular notification services. Okay, so if you play with streams of data and process that, okay, or define any events between two microservices with respect to data, you can use a Spring Cloud Stream. Okay, and to give specific command to all our microservices, we are using Spring Cloud Bus. Okay, so purpose of both are totally different.
Okay, okay, good. So how does Spring Cloud support security in microservices? Can you explain?
Okay, so to implement security in Spring Cloud ecosystem, okay, you can implement in an API gateway. Okay, in then API gateway, you implement a Spring security logic by using JWT and OAuth 2.0. You can define role based system and all those stuff. Okay, and your all microservice exposed by only the API gateway. So your all requests come to API gateway, and this is a public API, which is API gateway, and your all other microservice API is a private one, and which is only exposed by your API gateway. So that way you can implement a Spring security in your Spring Cloud architecture.
Okay, great. So are you aware of what is load balancing and how do we implement it into Spring Cloud?
Okay, so basically, when a request, a huge number of requests come to a particular microservice. Okay, we need to
Yeah.
horizontally scale that particular microservice with multiple pods, like 10 to 15 pods, as per our request is increases. Okay, so we need to distribute the load to all our microservice. For that, we need to use load balancer. Okay, so for that, we need to add one Maven dependency, which is Spring Cloud Starter dot load balancer. Okay, after that, you need to define any load balancing algorithm, which is round robin or first connection. Okay, uh, different type. Okay, so
Okay.
by using this, you can implement in a global level, also in a project level, or you can implement in a particular API level also. So by using that two way, it's possible.
Okay. Can you give some real life example for load balancing?
Okay, real time example means, for example, payment gateway, payment microservice over there. Okay, so
Okay.
we create three pods, like pod 1, pod 2, pod 3, for a particular payment services. Okay, so if we implement normal round and robin, okay, so in that what happen, the request go in a sequence way, one by one way. Okay. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
So or if we implement weighted algorithm, okay, so we defined weight to particular algorithm, like this is priority 1, priority 2, priority. So first request goes to this as per a weight of that particular microservice, so that way we can implement.
Good. Can you tell me difference between orchestration and choreography?
Okay, so orchestration and choreography, uh, both are part of saga design pattern. Okay, so in a orchestration, okay, what happened, one main microservice over there, okay, and that main microservice drive your all other microservices, okay. So its main microservice give command to other microservices. Basically you can say that your main microservice is the brain of your whole architecture, and this give command to other your microservices, called
Okay.
orchestration. Choreographies means what, all microservices are independent, okay. So we choreograph the particular microservice, and we give command to that particular microservice, this is your task, do that, okay. So all microservices are totally independent and doing their work as we define the business logic to that particular microservice.
Good. So, can you tell me what are the advantages of Spring Cloud and have you faced any challenges using that?
Okay, so first big advantage is like Spring Cloud is handle huge number of requests. Why? Because we can implement horizontal scaling, we can implement a load balancer also, okay. One thing is like we can implement agility also, means we can deploy small services in a period of time, okay. Means what happen, in a monolithic we build whole application then deploy that. Instead of doing that, we can deploy a small bunch of services, and some microservice have some downtime. It's not impact the whole other microservices.
Okay.
It's a basically loose couple, you can say that it's loose couple, so it is not impacting other microservice. These are advantage Spring Cloud have. And the challenges which I face, first of all, the managing cloud architecture, okay, or microservice architecture is bit challenging, because we need to do lots of configuration for that, okay. And second thing,
Mhm.
like it cost also increase, because we need to deploy your microservice multiple servers, okay. Do that cost is increases, okay. And uh, sometime like it is a new concept, like it's implement like 2 3 years ago. So sometime community documentation is very less, okay. So we need to do lots of R&D to find particular implementation. So that are the three challenges I face personally.
Correct, correct. Good. So, Rahul, you mentioned multiple times about e-commerce application. Okay. So, can you
Okay.
give me brief steps like how do you implement e-commerce application?
Okay. So first of all, I divide all our multiple domains in a small bunch of units. For example,
Okay.
if you building e-commerce application, what are the services we have? First is uh, payment service, then
Okay.
authentication authorization service over there, then notification service over there, okay. In that notification service we sending SMS, a WhatsApp, email notification, okay. Then we have product listing over there, okay. Then we have add to cart service over there. Then we have various algorithms to showcase the list, okay. Then we have dedicate admin panel over there, where uh, people are adding the product. Then we have like if delivery by using the particular Amazon app, so we have delivery by application over there. Then vendors we need to provide some specific portals to add a product and all the stuff, so we create application that. After that, it is overall what business logic we have. With that, we need to implement lots of things like security over there, okay. For that we need to use Spring Security, API gateway, then load balancer, and all the stuff like this, service registration discovery, Spring Cloud config over there, okay. So that way we design a whole microservice architecture of a e-commerce application.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good, Rahul. It was nice talking to you. Have a good day ahead.
Thank you so much.